He put all the tapes in a little box and kept them with his lawyer. That was his insurance. To me. Imagine that, you rat f***. Costello trusted me more than anyone.
Before The Irishman or Killers of the Flower Moon, there was The Departed, Martin Scorsese's electrifying study of sin, loyalty, and identity. Released in 2006, this Boston-set reimagining of Hong Kong's infernal affairs finally won Scorsese his long-overdue Oscar for Best Director. It earned $291 million worldwide and 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. A fusion of gangster realism and Shakespearean tragedy, The Departed is a world of double lives and moral collapse, where every truth is a lie waiting to be exposed. This curated list dives into the strange, surprising, and little-known facts behind Scorsese's masterpiece, revealing how chaos, corruption, and coincidence came together to make one of modern cinema's greatest crime thrillers.
You accused me once. I put up with it. You accused me twice. I quit. Pressure me to fear for my life, and I will put a fucking bullet in your head as if you were anybody else.
You got something you wanna ask me?
Fact 1. Jack Nicholson helped shape his character's darkness. Jack Nicholson's portrayal of mob boss Frank Costello wasn't all in the script. He collaborated heavily with Scorsese, adding improvised lines, props, and even the infamous sex toys and cocaine scene to explore the character's insanity. Nicholson said he wanted to show evil in action, not just evil that talks. The result was one of his most unhinged performances since The Shining, a terrifying mix of charm, chaos, and menace that only Jack could deliver.
Rats. It's wearing me thin. Francis, it's a nation of fucking rats.
Fact 2. Frank Costello was based on a real Boston mobster. Costello's character draws from James Whitey Bulger, the notorious Irish-American crime boss who secretly worked as an FBI informant while running South Boston's underworld. The parallels are striking. Both men manipulated law enforcement while ordering hits. Scorsese deliberately avoided using Bulger's name to sidestep legal trouble, but locals recognized the inspiration instantly. Years later, the real Bulger was convicted of 11 murders and sentenced to life in prison. Fact 3. Leonardo DiCaprio lived his role, but didn't lose himself to it. Leonardo DiCaprio has called Billy Costigan a man living in a 24-hour panic attack, and that's exactly how he played him, trapped in a life of constant fear, secrecy, and moral decay. While DiCaprio never claimed to suffer real panic attacks himself, he admitted the psychological strain of embodying someone on the edge of losing his identity left him emotionally raw after filming. He described the experience as one of the most intense roles of my life. The sense of danger on set was often real. During one pivotal scene, Jack Nicholson shocked everyone by pulling a real, loaded gun without warning to heighten the tension. DiCaprio's startled reaction in the scene is completely genuine. Scorsese later said DiCaprio brought an almost unbearable authenticity to the character, not by breaking down, but by holding it together while playing a man who couldn't. Fact 4. Matt Damon trained with real Massachusetts state troopers. To nail the authenticity of his role as Colin Sullivan, the crooked cop working for Costello, Matt Damon trained with real officers in Boston. He rode along on patrols, studied how troopers carried themselves, and learned the local accent firsthand. Damon later said he admired how Scorsese demanded precision, insisting that every badge, every gesture, every swear word feel real. That realism helped make Sullivan's double life disturbingly believable, a cop with a conscience buried beneath his ambition. Fact 5. Scorsese's hidden X symbol marks every death. Throughout The Departed, the letter X quietly stalks the doomed. You'll spot it in ceiling beams, windows, staircases, and wallpaper, a silent omen that a character's time is almost up. Scorsese borrowed the idea from Howard Hawks' Scarface, 1932, which used X's as a visual shorthand for fate and death. Every major character, from Costigan to Sullivan, crosses paths with the symbol right before their end. It's not random production design. It's Scorsese's coded language, death written into the architecture. Behind the camera, Scorsese built The Departed like a ticking time bomb. Every prop, every line, and every secret designed to explode by the film's end. Fact 6. A real Boston cop taught the cast how to go undercover. The undercover realism in The Departed didn't come from Hollywood imagination. It came from Tom Duffy, a former Boston police detective who spent 3 decades investigating the Irish mob. Duffy served as the film's main technical advisor, coaching the cast on how real undercover work operates. The lies, the paranoia, and the psychological toll of living between two worlds. Leonardo DiCaprio credited Duffy's insight for shaping Billy Costigan's mental unraveling, saying he wanted the audience to feel how dangerous pretending can become. The parallels were haunting. Duffy's real cases often involved mobsters tied to Whitey Bulger, the same criminal who inspired Jack Nicholson's Frank Costello. It was method acting grounding in lived experience, and it's why The Departed feels as authentic as it does unhinged. Fact 7. Scorsese never watched Infernal Affairs before filming. Although The Departed is officially a remake of the Hong Kong crime classic Infernal Affairs, 2002, Martin Scorsese deliberately chose not to watch it before shooting. He said he wanted to approach the script with fresh eyes, focusing on the Boston story, Irish-American culture, and moral tension rather than making a scene-by-scene adaptation. Ironically, the film ended up winning the Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay, even though Scorsese hadn't seen the original it was based on. Fact 8. Alec Baldwin's improvisation was controlled chaos. Alec Baldwin's rapid-fire performance as Captain Ellerby felt completely off the cuff, but it wasn't mostly improvised. The Departed followed William Monahan's precise script, and while Martin Scorsese gave the actors room to play, the story stayed locked in place. Baldwin, known for his comic timing, was encouraged to riff within the lines, turning straightforward dialogue into quotable gold. Scorsese called Baldwin's looseness organized chaos. The director let him tweak phrasing and pacing to capture Boston's manic energy, but the scenes weren't rewritten on the spot. Other actors got less leeway. Mark Wahlberg's attempts to improvise were reportedly shut down, and Jack Nicholson's on-set surprises, like the real gun stunt, remain the wildest unscripted moments. Baldwin's foul-mouthed swagger may sound spontaneous, but it's the perfect balance of sharp writing and Scorsese-controlled freedom. Fact 9. Mark Wahlberg's character wasn't in the original script. Sergeant Dignam, played by Mark Wahlberg, was created specifically for The Departed. The foul-mouthed, no-nonsense cop doesn't exist in Infernal Affairs or in earlier drafts of the screenplay. Screenwriter William Monahan added him late in development as a symbol of Boston's blue-collar grit. Wahlberg's explosive attitude and quick insults earned him an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor, despite appearing in only a handful of scenes. Fact 10. The original ending was completely different. Early drafts of The Departed ended with both DiCaprio's and Damon's characters dead, a darker, more ambiguous finale that left the city's corruption unresolved. Scorsese later changed it, adding Dignam's revenge killing of Colin Sullivan as poetic justice. He called it the hammer drop, the moment the story's moral balance was restored. Even so, the rat on Sullivan's balcony in the final shot remains divisive. Scorsese said it was too obvious, but kept it because audiences loved the symbolism. Fact 11. Jack Nicholson brought a gun to set, for real. During one tense scene between Costello and DiCaprio's character, Jack Nicholson surprised everyone by pulling out a real gun loaded with blanks, something not discussed beforehand. He wanted to see DiCaprio's genuine fear on camera. Scorsese didn't stop him, he just let the cameras roll. That raw unpredictability gave the scene its edge. You can see DiCaprio's startled reaction isn't acting. Fact 12. Scorsese wanted the violence to feel real, and it does. Forget subtlety, The Departed is one of Martin Scorsese's most violent films. The director didn't just imply brutality, he showed it. The movie is filled with close-range shootings, savage beatings, and sudden deaths that arrive without warning. Scorsese once described the film as moral ground zero, a place where corruption, betrayal, and survival all bleed together. One scene shows Jack Nicholson's Frank Costello casually toying with a severed hand while interrogating an informant, a chilling reminder of how violence and power intertwine in his world. Still, the film's brutality isn't just physical, it's psychological. Every character lives on the edge of exposure, unraveling under lies and paranoia. The violence hits twice, once on screen and again in the mind. Fact 13. Mark Wahlberg's real-life frustration fueled his role. Mark Wahlberg didn't just act angry in The Departed, he was. Behind the scenes, Wahlberg was frustrated about everything from his pay to his schedule. He was originally promised a different part, clashed with Scorsese over his hair length for another movie, Invincible, and admitted he stayed in that headspace off camera. Instead of fighting it, Martin Scorsese encouraged it. He told Wahlberg to channel his irritation straight into Sergeant Dignam, the sharp-tongued cop who never hides his contempt. Wahlberg's natural volatility turned into cinematic gold, earning him an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor despite being on screen for less than 20 minutes. As Wahlberg later joked, "I was just pissed off the whole time," and apparently that worked. Fact 14. Scorsese finally won his first Oscar for The Departed. After decades of masterpieces, Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, Goodfellas, Casino, Scorsese finally took home his first Academy Award for Best Director in 2007 with The Departed. When he accepted, he humorously asked the cameraman, "Could you check the envelope?" to make sure it was real. The film also won Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Film Editing, marking a long-overdue victory for one of cinema's legends. Fact 15. The Departed's Boston was mostly New York. Despite its gritty Boston feel, most of The Departed was filmed in New York City, with only a handful of real Boston shots, like the Massachusetts State House and Southie exteriors. Scorsese and cinematographer Michael Ballhaus recreated the city's mood through its accents, gray light, and attitude, proving you don't need to shoot in Southie to feel Southie. By the second half of production, Scorsese wasn't just making a crime movie. He was building a mirror to Boston itself, where loyalty, faith, and corruption were often indistinguishable. Fact 16. The story echoes a real Boston police scandal. While The Departed is rooted in fiction, its moral corruption was inspired by real events in Boston, where informant scandals blurred the line between cops and criminals. Scorsese and screenwriter William Monahan drew from decades of true headlines about compromised FBI agents, mob protection deals, and double agents walking free. The film's realism came straight from the city's history, a place where everyone knew who was dirty. Fact 17. Roger Ebert saw The Departed as Scorsese's spiritual reckoning. When The Departed hit theaters, Roger Ebert gave it 4 stars and a full thumbs up, calling it one of Scorsese's greatest works. In his review, he compared the film's emotional weight to Shakespeare, Hemingway, and even Jesus Christ, praising how Scorsese turned crime into a meditation on faith and deception. Ebert wrote, "The Departed is about 2 men trying to live public lives that are the radical opposites of their inner realities. He saw beneath the gunfire and betrayal to the Catholic guilt pulsing at the story's heart, a world where sin and survival were indistinguishable." To Ebert, Scorsese wasn't just making another gangster movie. He was wrestling with salvation itself. Fact 18. The film is filled with hidden religious symbols. Scorsese, who was once in seminary, laced The Departed with Catholic imagery, crosses, confessionals, and crucifix-like shadows. In one key scene, a cross-shaped light appears behind Costigan moments before violence erupts. The motif reflects Scorsese's lifelong obsession with sin and redemption. Even the film's title hints at death, The Departed being both the dead and the spiritually lost. Fact 19. The opening voice isn't Scorsese. It's Jack Nicholson over real riot footage. The opening narration of The Departed isn't Martin Scorsese. It's Jack Nicholson as mob boss Frank Costello, delivering his chilling monologue over real footage of Boston's 1970s busing riots. The sequence sets the tone for the film's world of corruption and power, grounded in actual history. The voiceover includes one of the movie's most iconic lines: "I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me." While Scorsese didn't lend his voice here, he's known for memorable cameos in other films, from a taxi passenger in Taxi Driver to a radio announcer in Killers of the Flower Moon. Fact 20. Scorsese used authentic Boston slang throughout. Authenticity was everything. Screenwriter William Monahan grew up in Boston and filled the dialogue with local expressions like rat, Southie, and masshole. Scorsese encouraged the actors to lean into the accent, even if audiences outside Massachusetts needed subtitles. It worked. The film's rough, fast-talking rhythm became one of its defining traits, grounding its tension in real street culture rather than movie polish. By the time The Departed hit theaters, Scorsese had crafted not just a remake, but a brutal meditation on identity, guilt, and fate, where even survival feels like punishment. Fact 21. The rat on the balcony sparked debate, and Scorsese kept it on purpose. The final shot of The Departed, a lone rat scurrying across Colin Sullivan's balcony rail, instantly split audiences. Some called it brilliant symbolism, others said it was too obvious. While the viral quote about Scorsese calling the shot "a joke meant to sting" can't be verified, both he and screenwriter William Monahan admitted the ending was intentionally unsubtle, a darkly funny gut punch about corruption and hypocrisy. The rat literally overlooks the Massachusetts State House, a not-so-gentle reminder that even the halls of power aren't clean. Scorsese reportedly fought to keep the ending, despite studio pressure to soften it for a potential sequel. Years later, fans started online petitions to digitally remove the rat, which Scorsese found hilarious. Love it or hate it, that tiny rodent became one of cinema's most famous final shots. A wink, a warning, and a middle finger all at once. Fact 22. Leo didn't snub the Oscars. The studio split his campaign. The popular story that Leonardo DiCaprio refused to campaign for an Oscar for The Departed isn't quite true. In reality, Warner Brothers made the call. Since DiCaprio starred in both The Departed and Blood Diamond in 2006, the studio feared his performances would compete against each other. They campaigned him as a lead for Blood Diamond and as supporting for The Departed, a move DiCaprio reportedly disliked because he didn't want to undercut co-stars Jack Nicholson and Matt Damon. The gamble backfired. He earned a nomination for Blood Diamond, but not for The Departed. Scorsese later praised his performance as an everyman people don't want to acknowledge, calling it one of DiCaprio's most emotionally raw roles. Fact 23. Al Pacino turned down the role before Nicholson made it iconic. Before Jack Nicholson took over as Frank Costello, Warner Brothers and Martin Scorsese both had Al Pacino in mind for the role. Pacino declined, worried it would echo his earlier mob portrayals in the Godfather films and Donnie Brasco. Once Nicholson joined, he told Scorsese he'd only do it if he could push the insanity. He rewrote dialogue, improvised scenes, and even added disturbing details, like the rat imagery and the American flag scene, to make Costello feel unhinged and mythic. Scorsese later said Nicholson transformed the character from a typical mob boss into the devil disguised as a man, turning The Departed from a crime story into a psychological fever dream. Fact 24. Real Boston cops and locals filled the screen. To capture Boston's grit, Scorsese filled The Departed with real city cops, locals, and neighborhood extras. The production spent 6 weeks filming across Southie, Charlestown, and Beacon Hill, even transforming a Beacon Hill dry cleaner into a neighborhood bar. Former Boston police detective Thomas B. Duffy served as the film's technical consultant, guiding actors on procedure and tone. His decades investigating the Irish mob added realism that no script could fake. Scorsese encouraged improvisation from his cast and extras alike, giving every exchange, from barroom arguments to backroom busts, the raw, street-level authenticity of real Boston life. Fact 25. Scorsese crafted the ending as moral and poetic justice. Martin Scorsese designed The Departed's bloody finale as more than chaos. It was balance. He viewed the violence as a moral reckoning in a corrupt world, where every betrayal had to be answered in kind. In interviews, Scorsese explained that the ending was a deliberate balancing of scales, showing how deception and sin inevitably destroy everyone involved. The result is poetic justice disguised as brutality, a dark universe where order is restored not by law or redemption, but by blood. As film Colossus notes, Scorsese's finale transforms crime into morality play, a world where fate, not conscience, decides who survives. And in true Scorsese fashion, even the smallest prop, a rat, carried a deeper meaning. Bonus fact, Nicholson's rat was a real prop he brought from home. That rubber rat Frank Costello waves around, Nicholson brought it from his own collection. He thought the movie needed a visual reminder of treachery, subtle at first, then literal. Scorsese loved it so much, he built the theme around it, ending the movie with a real rat crossing the skyline. The Departed isn't just a story about cops and gangsters. It's about masks, sin, and survival. In Scorsese's Boston, everyone's undercover, pretending to be clean, pretending to be loyal, pretending to be human. It's a world where loyalty gets you killed, truth gets you buried, and identity is the most dangerous weapon of all. What makes The Departed endure isn't just its violence, but its honesty about corruption, faith, and fate. It's the rare crime film that plays like a sermon whispered in blood, a story where no one escapes the gravity of what they've done. Scorsese doesn't just tell a story, he builds a moral labyrinth and dares you to find the exit. This is Strange Flick Facts, where we uncover the bizarre truths behind your favorite films. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us again for more strange stories from the world's most unforgettable classics.